Здравейте! В днешното видео искам да ви споделя един страхотен анализ, който направи Скот Ритър в предаването на съдия Неаполитано. По мое мнение, наистина един изключително интересен и доста обективен анализ по повод на събитията Израел-Палестина. Той много добре обясни всичко, как е започнал конфликта и общото даде доста интересна информация. Като например, той разказа за неща, които едва ли ще чуят на друго място. Например, за закона, който са приели израелците, Дахила. За тези от вас, които не знаете какво представлява Дахила, това е закон, който те приемат за неправопропорционално отвръщане при вражеска атака. Тоест, например, ако палестинците убият 100 израелци, израелците трябва да убият 500 цивилни палестинци. Така по този начин Израел не само нанася много повече щети на врага си, но и прави така, че населението, цивилното население да се обърне срещу бойците. Нещо, което и американците са правили. Не знам колко хора го осъзнават, но когато те детонират двете ядрени бомби над Хирошима и Нагазаки, преди това имало съвещание в Ню Мексико, където е обсъждано коя ще бъде най-подходящата цел с най-много цивилни жертви. За да може, когато бъдат избити тези цивилни, морала да падне, войниците започнат да се притесняват за своите близки и общото да загубят желание да се бият. Точно това в момента правят и израелците и са приели този изключително гнусен закон още през 2006 година, за което американци много добре знаят, но разбира се затварят очите. Все пак те са били първите, които са правили подобен тип наистина военни престъпления и не знам аз как да го нарека, ужасяващи неща. Но това са американците, това са украинците и това са израелците. Той също така споменава и за огромната грешка, която Израел правят. Аз също съм на същото мнение, че те правят изключително огромна грешка, а именно да бомбардират районите, в които ще се водят бойни действия. Това е нещо, което и руснаците го направиха и се наложи после буквално Вагнер да им спаси газа с цената на много човешки животи. Много бойци загубиха живота си от страна на Вагнер, за да могат да отвоят тези територии. Наистина това е една изключително груба грешка и военните тактици доста често такива битки започват да и коментират, да казват, че това е наистина огромна грешка да се бомбардира място, където ще се водят бойни действия, тъй като руините стават естествена защита на бойците, които защитават тази територия. Те лесно могат да се окупаят и да бъдат в така доста безопасни позиции, докато нахлуващата армия ще бъде напълно незащитена и ще понесе огромни щети. Това са на път да направят израелците. То е на мнението, и аз пак ви казвам, че го подкрепям, че ако Израел навлезе сухопътно в Газа, ще понесат огромни щети, буквално ще бъде клане и това ще бъде изключително груба грешка от страна на израелците. И разбира се, още много други интересни неща има в този анализ, така че мисля, че ще бъде доста интересен. Затова, преди да го пусна, само ще ви напомня да дадете лайк на видеото, ако ви харесва, тъй като това е единствения начин YouTube да започне да го показва на повече хора. А сега вижте и самия анализ, мисля, че наистина ще ви бъде интересен.
Scott, welcome to the show, my dear friend. No matter what we talk about, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. How to explain the Hamas savage attack on Israeli military and civilian populations 10 days ago?
Well, I mean, first of all, we need to understand that we just can't start on October 7th.
Correct.
You know, when October 7th, something very bad happened if you were Israeli. Your military let its guard down. Your nation came under attack, and you suffered egregious casualties, unprecedented levels of casualties. But this isn't something that just happened overnight. It was part of a systemic failure. We need to, first of all, understand why Hamas attacked. Because there's a lot of people out there who are saying, look, Israel was doing everything they could to appease Hamas, to appease the Palestinians in Gaza. They just approved 20,000 work permits so that 20,000 workers in Gaza could leave and work in the West Bank to earn money. That's 20,000 out of a population of 2.1 million. So understand that it's not like a jobs program. It's a bribe, a small bribe. Israel had stopped, active patrolling because they built a wall around Gaza, this giant technologically advanced wall. Gaza was a prison, a concentration camp. And you have to understand that. And you have to go back to the birth of Israel to understand in 1948, when the War of Independence began, the first act that the Israelis did in the Negev Desert, where Gaza is to attack every one of the 247 Arab villages and towns, slaughter the men, killing thousands, tens of thousands by some counts, and then taking the survivors and sending them to Gaza, where they became prisoners. This is 1948. Gaza's been a prison camp ever since then. And so there's a lot of animosity going down. The other thing you have to understand is within Gaza, Israel created or empowered the Hamas movement. I mean, it was there, but Israel helped bring it to light. Why? Because Israel needed to divide the Palestinian loyalties. Israel couldn't have the Palestinian people uniting around Yasser Arafat and the Palestinian Liberation Organization and the Fatah movement. That would become too powerful, and Israel would have to give them a state. What Israel did is support Hamas, the rise of Hamas, to split the Palestinians so that they would fight amongst themselves. A divided enemy is easier to control. So Israel created the Hamas problem, and they were willing to accept the casualties that came about through terrorist actions from Hamas. But the fact is, the Israeli military got overconfident. They forgot the lessons of 2014, where they got beat when they went into Gaza and got beat. They pulled back. They relied too much on technology, and they fell asleep, and Hamas took advantage of it.
How to explain vulnerability at this very moment? Was the military on the other side of Israel defending the illegal settlements in the West Bank? Was the Mossad intentionally indifferent? I mean, at this moment in time, the military was nowhere near the Gaza-Israeli border, and the Mossad, the famed Mossad, ignored Egyptian warnings, didn't hear them, didn't get them, they didn't make them up the chain of command, whatever it is. All this happened at once. How to explain that?
It's hard to explain it because it's such an egregious failure. Look, Israel was embarked on a program of settlements in the West Bank, a very controversial program that was designed to push the Palestinians out of certain areas. And they expected a certain amount of backlash from the West Bank population. So they redeployed significant forces, primarily from the Southern Command, from the Gaza division. And they brought these forces in where you would normally have 3 to 4 brigades worth of troops around Gaza. You had one undermanned brigade remaining. Everything else was taken down to the West Bank, where they were heavily involved in these police type operations. So you'd weaken the line, but Israel felt they could do that because they had an over reliance on technology, this new high technology wall with its sensors and remote guns and things of that nature, this artificial intelligence that they had taken in, to collect so much data fed into supercomputers, and the supercomputers would spit out assessments about, we think Hamas is going to do this, Hamas is going to do that. And then there was political, what we call conception on the part of the Israeli military and government that said, look, we're bribing Hamas, we're bribing the Palestinians with this jobs program, things are going to get better. Hamas would never want to ruin this by attacking us. So even though we collect intelligence, and you have Israelis, intelligence officers, the Scott Ritter equivalents, who are reading it going, hey, boss, time out. I see stuff happening here that's of concern. They send the report up the chain, and the chain looks at it and says, nah, Hamas would never do that. We believe Hamas is buying into what we're selling them here. And so thank you very much, Scott. Go take a chill pill. Go to sleep. We're going to ignore you. You had intelligence officers in Israel who were writing reports saying Hamas is getting ready to attack. You had Egypt telling the Israeli government, we think Hamas is up to something. But the Israeli government had bought into the notion that, no, we got this all under control. Because if Israel acted on that, you would have to divert forces away from the West Bank, which means that the priority that Netanyahu had put into, pushing these settlements wouldn't be done. So this is a political decision. Politics, once again, trumped intelligence.
Right before we came on air today, the reports are confirmed that the Israelis bombed the principal hospital in Gaza and killed 500 people. Now, how can the Israelis possibly justify that?
Well, look, this isn't something new. Israel has a policy that's been in place since 2006. It was an unofficial policy prior to that. But after 2006, the war they fought with Hezbollah, where the Israeli military was beat, Israel came with a policy, and it's based on the principle of deterrence. It's called the Dahiwa policy. It's mowing the grass. And what it means is that Israel will respond with disproportional violence, not just against the fighters, but the civilians. That the whole idea is to break the support of the civilians for the fighters. So they will attack them. They will inflict overwhelming casualties. It's a war crime. It's a literal war crime. But the United States has known about this. The world has known. Israel has published this. They bragged about it, but we just don't want to, think about it. What happened in Gaza and what's been happening is part of this policy of Dahiwa, mowing the grass. And mowing the grass literally implies killing the children, culling them out, decimating them.
And
so
these are war crimes committed with American military equipment and American ammunition.
100%. And again, under normal circumstances, if a nation took American equipment and did this, we would embargo them. We would sanction them. We would, tell them that you can't do this. But here it's Israel. Again, see, hear, speak no evil. We know what Israel's doing. We support what Israel's doing. This is why any talk of the United States of being sympathetic to the Palestinian population is a 100% lie. We've never been sympathetic to the population. We've always been embracing the Israeli point of view and the Israeli strategic objectives, even if it includes this policy of Dahiwa. Look, Israel published it. Google it. The papers are there. I'm not making it up. And when you read it, you're going to go, how could this be? Because we have been blind to the crimes committed by Israel against the Palestinians for over 7 decades.
What we just saw while you were speaking was a rally outside the destroyed hospital in Gaza by several thousand Palestinians. What is the Israeli goal? Is it to turn northern Gaza into the Stone Age? When their troops enter, what are they going to be doing? Fighting guerrilla warfare? Because if that's the case, are reservists adequately trained and equipped to fight guerrilla warfare against an enemy that doesn't wear uniforms?
There's two anecdotal stories that can be told here. One, early on in the Battle of Stalingrad, the Germans came in and bombed the Red October plant, bombed it, pulverized it, and then the Red Army soldiers went in and dug into the ruins. And the Germans brought in their most elite sapper assault units, and they attacked and they were slaughtered because it's impossible to launch an attack against an enemy dug into and already destroyed. Monte Cassino, 1944. We blew up the casino. We blew up the villages, turned into rubble. The German 6th Airborne Division dug in. We came up and took 4 assaults and tens of thousands of casualties before we could finally take that mountain. That we only took it because the Germans withdrew from that. If the Israelis go into Gaza, what are they going to do? Judge, I'm going to be just dead up straight with you. They're going to die. They're going to die in numbers that the Israelis haven't seen before. And the Israeli military knows it. Why do you think they haven't gone in yet? Because they know what's going to happen. Hamas is ready for them. Hamas is prepared for them. Hamas told Iran said, hey, look, if you guys are in trouble, we'll come in now. Hamas said, we got this, boss. We are ready for this. We don't need your help. We don't want your help. Hamas is luring the Israelis into a death trap in Gaza. And that's what's going to happen to the Israeli army when they go into Gaza. They're going to die.
Do most Israelis blame Prime Minister Netanyahu for this, either for the vulnerability, the lack of taking intel seriously, or the conditions that caused it to come about?
I think the overwhelming number of Israelis blame Benjamin Netanyahu for this. First of all, before this war even started, they were already mad at him for what he had shredded the rule of law. He had shredded the concept of separate but equal branches of government. They rewrote basic Israeli law to subordinate the judiciary to a politicized legislative, which was responsive to a politicized executive. In America, it would be the equivalent of the Supreme Court being told that the Congress gets to pick the Supreme Court justices, and if the Supreme Court justices make any decision that they don't agree with, they can be impeached and replaced.
Right. Right.
That wouldn't work. Well, that's happening. That's happened in Israel to protect Benjamin Netanyahu. He is a corrupt individual under serious charges of corruption. So he is perverting the concept of basic separate but equal branches of government to benefit himself. And Israel is already fundamentally split. Now you throw on top of that, he is Mr. Security. He's the guy that's been telling the Israelis from 1995 that he alone can take care of Israel. He knows the real threats. He knows all the problems. Trust me, I will save you. Well, Bibi, you were asleep at the wheel, and now you have thousands of dead Israelis because of you. And all of Israel knows this. So he's in trouble right now. He's playing on this, which is going to make coming up with a peaceful outcome very difficult, because Benjamin Netanyahu knows this is the end of him as a politician. He is finished. He will not survive this.